So if you will go into this and open up the document. The one that I had there, I forgot to update the version. And so it had notes from one of my other classes, which doesn't harm you, but they were from my 7th grade class. And so your answers might be a little bit more developed than what theirs were. So we're going to go through this together. You guys can take notes in your version of the slides. You will need to have your version open at some point because you will have to come up with your own answers for slides 10 and 11. All right, so the first question I have for you guys is, how do we define culture? For those of you who were at Alameda last year, this should be kind of a review. For those of you who are new, this might be something new. And you can either respond in the chat or you can raise your hand. Karen, I had forgotten to delete the notes from my last class. So, I mean, you can share if you want, but the new one should have the new, or the, should have the notes removed. All right. Okay, so religion can be an example of culture. What are some other things that might be an example of culture?
Clothing.
Clothing. All right. Arts. Traditions.
Language.
Language. Food. Anything else you want to add?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Do we have to write it?
You don't have to.
Okay.
We're going to come up with a definition here in a moment, so you may want to jot that down. But this is just kind of for your note taking if you want. All right, music, dance. Oops, not cans, dance. All right, anything else? All right. So this is a good start for a list of what is culture. So I see some things on here. Let's see. So religion, clothing, arts, traditions. So some of these things can definitely be seen. Some of them can be heard. So if we were going to create a definition of culture, what would we say culture is? Okay, culture is the way people live. It's something. Okay. Culture is the way people live. It's something about how a civilization works and what their interests are. What people do. All right. let's see here. Okay, so culture is the way people live, something about how a civilization works and what their interests are and what people do. So we could say, let's see, if we were going to make this into a sentence. So I think this is a good starting point. So culture is the way people live. It influences how their civilization works, what things they do, and the things that interest them. So this can include a shared religion, clothing, arts. Actually, I'm going to put a shared way people live. So culture can be many things. But I think you guys did a really nice job of like talking about kind of the things that almost live at the heart of culture. And so I'm going to play a little video that is going to give you some other definitions of culture. Let me see here really quick. Nope, not that. Delete that. Okay. Okay, so again, just a quick little video, just kind of sharing some other perspectives on what culture is. Is there anything that we would like to add or change in our definition? All right, got one vote that it looks good. Okay. All right, so it looks like the consensus right now is we're going to leave it as it is. And we'll come back one more time later and just see if there's anything we want to change about it. So when we talk about culture, and we talk about these things like religion, clothing, art, traditions, we have something that is called a culture norm. Does anyone know what that is? Or would want to take a guess at what it might be? Okay. Like everything, the rules, every day. Okay. Those are great starting points. Because if we look at this word, norms, What other word does it remind us of? Normal, right. And so culture norms are essentially what's considered normal in the culture. Um, so culture norms are sometimes unspoken rules. Like habits or expectations. So for example, when we get up here in America, when we get up in the morning, what are 3 things that you do right after you get up in the morning? Brush your hair, use your phone, brush my teeth.
I go back to sleep.
You go back to sleep? That sounds like my daughter. Eat, go on TikTok, get dressed, brush teeth, take shower, and eat. All right. So in America, even though there are other countries in like other Western cultures, so like Europe, like other countries in Europe who share similar ideals as we do, other countries aren't as I'll say, I guess, neurotic. They aren't as hung up on personal hygiene as we are here in the United States. And so if you were to ask pretty much any person you meet on the street that has spent any time here in America, they would probably tell you they brush their teeth, they take a shower, they eat breakfast, and they get dressed. So it'd probably be something in those orders. But the brushing the teeth and the showering regularly is a big thing. Is there anything that tells us we have to do those things? No. All right. So there's nothing that tells us we have to do these things. But what happens if we don't? How do people treat us? We get made fun of. They are kind of weird to us. Right. So they might just be like straight up rude and be like, dude, you stink. Go brush your teeth. Go take a shower. And so even though there's no rule or law that says we have to do this, it is a cultural expectation that we do. Otherwise, we have broken a culture norm. And the rest of the members of our culture are going to make it very evident and let us know that we are not doing what we're supposed to be doing as part of our culture. So with this, there are subcultures also. And so the example of the United States is kind of a big, large culture, but I bet you guys each have your own special culture at home. That if you were to compare it to like your friend's house, some things might be the same, but some things might be different. So like what are some examples of culture norms that you have at home? Like, what are some unspoken rules that you have or expectations you have at your house? Do everything when you wake up. Do the dishes. Don't waste time. And if you fail to do these things, are your parents going to let you know about it? Yes, definitely. All right. So why do you guys think that these culture norms, why do you think culture norms are created? Why do you think they exist? To keep life simple, maybe. To go back to the example of brushing teeth. Why is it so important that we brush our teeth besides not having bad breath? To be healthy, right? Because if we don't brush our teeth, then not only do our teeth end up with disease, they can fall out and they can rot, but also the bacteria, yes. Because think about it. Anything that is in your mouth that ends up coming into interaction with your saliva ends up going into your body, into your digestive system. So if you don't take care of your teeth, all that bacteria that builds up in your mouth will eventually end up in the rest of your body. And so not only do you have to worry about your teeth rotting and falling out, but you can worry about getting other illnesses and diseases because of it. So culture norms originally get their start, at least my opinion on this, is as a way to help protect the culture, to help protect the members of the group. And so we have found over years that brushing your teeth regularly, if they're healthy, then you stay healthier. If you're crossing the street, what do we do? What do we do before we cross the street? We look both ways. Correct. Is there any law that tells us that we have to look both ways? Nope. But if we don't, then we stand a pretty good chance of getting hit by a car that we didn't see coming. And so culture norms are originally intended to help protect members of the culture group. And so if members of the culture group don't follow the norms, then that could potentially put the culture group at risk. And as we'll get into this in some of our later classes, sometimes culture norms end up outdated. And so sometimes where it was necessary to do one thing to stay safe, hygiene has changed, social beliefs have changed, things have changed that then begin to challenge the culture norms and make the culture as kind of a collective determine if they want to stay with that culture norm or do they need to adjust it in order to stay relevant with the modern times. So culture and culture norms are going to be something that we talk about a lot through the course of this this class. Let's see here. Where's my... Okay. So another example of culture is the International Baccalaureate. Apologize if this is repeats for those of you who were here last year, but Alameda is an IB school or International Baccalaureate. And so IB tells us in their mission statement what they want their culture to be. And they say that their culture aims to develop inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring young people who help to create a better and more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. To this end, the organization works with schools, governments, and international organizations to develop challenging programs of international education and rigorous assessment. These programs encourage students across the world to become active, compassionate, and lifelong learners who understand that other people with their differences can also be right. So in this statement, IB tells us that they want this type of a culture, and they start to kind of explain what their culture norms are as far as this idea of encouraging students to become active, compassionate, and lifelong learners. So in the IB culture, it's going to be encouraged that you are understanding towards people, that you try to understand that even though people have differences, they can also be right. And so IB has 4 programs. They have a primary years program, which runs through preschool to technically 6th grade. In the majority of the world, or sorry, 5th grade. In the majority of the world, 5th grade is the end of elementary school and 6th grade is the start of secondary school. Here in our articulation area, it's a little skewed, so we still have 6th grade at elementary. So if you went to Stein or you went to Patterson, you guys were part of the primary years program. And so your program was kind of extended out through 6th grade. Middle years program would go from 6th grade to 10th grade. And so each year gets its own number. So 6th grade is year 1, 7th grade is year 2, and you guys as 8th graders are year 3. In 11th and 12th grade, if you choose to stay in the IB program, there is the diploma program, which is geared towards students who want to do a traditional 4-year program after they want to go to college for 4 years after high school, or the career-related program. Right now at Alameda, we have the health profession, I think, is our CP program. And so that is geared towards those students will leave with about a semester's worth of college credit if they want to go and continue on a certificate program at a community college or university. Otherwise, they're given skills and they receive certification so that they can go into a career right after school. We also have a non-IB program called CTE, which is Career Technical Education. And so it doesn't have the IB requirements, but it still helps students to find a career path, get certifications, and have something that they can use to find a good job when they get out of high school. This is just a little bit about the different elements of the IB program. You guys probably noticed, or at least the middle years program, you guys probably noticed that you have 2 less classes this semester. Normally IB requires 5 core classes, so world language, math, science, individuals and societies, and language and literature. And then they require you at some point to take physical education and art classes, and then some design classes. So that's why we used to have 8 periods. But feedback from the spring led us to adjust our schedule, because it was just found to be that 8 classes in a remote environment was too much. So I guess once we finally go back to school full time, that may or may not adjust back. We have our learner profile traits in IB. And so talking about culture norms, these are the behaviors and attitudes that guide our lives as IB learners. So these are, you are graded on these in the majority of your classes. And so we're constantly looking for you to be displaying these attitudes and behaviors, as well as we highlight them in the lessons so that you guys can see what some examples look like. We also have the approaches to learning. And so if the learner profile traits are behaviors and skills, then the approaches to learning, or the learner profile traits are behaviors and attitudes. The approaches to learning are skills. And so these are skills that IB feels are necessary for students to have and develop in order to be effective learners. And so they need to develop communication skills. They need to develop social skills. They need to develop research skills, self-management skills, and thinking skills. And so each of the units that we will complete over the course of our time together will have anywhere from 2 to 3 ATLs or skills highlighted in them. So now I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time to work on your own. These next 2 slides are asking you to be reflective. And so what does it mean to be reflective? You guys can probably know this answer in your sleep. To go back and remember, to learn from experience. Right. So when we are being reflective, we're looking back on our experiences, we're looking back on the things we've learned, we're looking back on what knowledge we have, and we're trying to figure out how to use those things to help us prepare for the future, to help us be better. So what you guys are going to do on this first slide is you are going to give some examples of culture in your life. Let's see here. So I'm going to say 4 to 5 examples. Let me do this here. Get a little bit in. That's fine. Okay. So 4 to 5 examples for each box. So this first one are, what are some examples of culture in your life? So this could be your home culture and like you and your family unit or whoever you live with. It could be another culture that you belong to. So maybe it could be your larger family, or maybe you could talk about like if you belong to a sports team and what are some examples of culture that exists within your sports team. And then what are some examples of culture norms in your life? So if you are talking about your family, maybe you're talking about your home. And so maybe some of those examples you guys gave earlier, or maybe it's the way that you dress, or maybe it's the way that you talk to certain people, the way that you interact with people. But your examples can either be images or they can be, you can type them out. So if I were to do something like an image, you can just search online. So for example, if I were filling this out for me, I would say that I have that part of our culture is multi-generational. So there are, in my family, there are groups of us that live with multiple generations. So I live with my grandmother and my daughter. At my mom's house, it's my mom, my brother and his family, and then there's going to be a new baby on the way. So there's several generations living there. So it can be just however you would define elements of your family, and then just try and find the best pictures that you can use to represent. The last slide is being reflective. And so this is looking more about you internally and sharing some examples of behaviors, attitudes, and skills you believe you will need to be successful in life. So a behavior might be I need to set an alarm so that I can get up and be on time to school or work every morning. An attitude might be having a positive outlook on life. And so maybe focusing on the positive rather than the negative will help you be successful, because it means you're not spending all this time and energy focused on things you can't control. And then skills. So maybe, it could be something simple like knowing how to read or knowing how to write, or maybe something more technical like you want to be a master chef when you grow up. And so maybe those skills you need to start learning about different types of foods, and maybe you need to start learning different types of techniques. And so those are skills that you could include too. So I'm going to give you, let's see, it is 12:30. I am going to give you guys we'll start off with 15 minutes. So I'll check back in on you at 12:45 to see if you are done with these. If you finish, then you can quietly hang out, you can read, you can work on something else. But I will call all of us back together at 12:45 just to kind of see where we're at. Any questions? Or what questions do you have? Nope. Okay, so 15 minutes and then I'll check back in on you.